और किस प्रकार से उस समय नेहरू जी ने उन्हें अपने भाग्य पर छोड़ जीने के लिए मजबूर कर दिया था, ये हमसे हिसाब मांग रहे हैं। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी यहां चले गए लोहियावादी, उनको मैं भी सुनाना चाहता था। जो लोग अपने आप को लोहिया जी का वारिस कहते हैं और जो कल सदन में बड़े उछल उछल करके बोल रहे थे, हाथ लंबे चौड़े करने की कोशिश कर रहे थे, लोहिया जी ने नेहरू जी पर गंभीर आरोप लगाया था और लोहिया जी ने कहा था, और वो आरोप था कि जानबूझकर नेहरू जी नॉर्थ ईस्ट का विकास नहीं कर रहे, जानबूझ करके नहीं कर रहे। और लोहिया जी के शब्द थे, ये कितनी लापरवाही वाली और कितनी खतरनाक बात है। लोहिया जी के शब्द हैं, ये कितनी लापरवाही वाली और कितनी खतरनाक बात है। 30,000 स्क्वायर मील से बड़े क्षेत्र को एक कोल्ड स्टोरेज में बंद करके उसे हर तरह के विकास से वंचित कर दिया गया है। ये लोहिया जी ने नेहरू पर आरोप लगाया था कि नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लिए तुम्हारा रवैया क्या है। ये कहा था, नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लोगों के हृदय को, उनकी भावनाओं को आपने कभी समझने की कोशिश नहीं की है। मेरे मंत्रिपरिषद के 400 मंत्री रात्रि निवास करके, और अकेले स्टेट हेडक्वार्टर पर नहीं, डिस्ट्रिक्ट के हेडक्वार्टर, और मैं स्वयं 50 बार गया। ये आंकड़ा नहीं है सिर्फ, ये साधना है, ये नॉर्थ ईस्ट के प्रति समर्पण है। आदरणीय, और कांग्रेस का हर कामकाज राजनीति और चुनाव और सरकार के आसपास ही घूमता रहता है। जहां ज्यादा सीटें मिलती हो, राजनीति की अपनी खिचड़ी पकती है, तो वहां तो मजबूरन सही कुछ कर लेते हैं। लेकिन नॉर्थ ईस्ट में देश सुन रहा है। नॉर्थ ईस्ट में उनकी कोशिश रही कि जहां पर एक्का दुक्का सीटें होती थी, वो इलाके उनके लिए स्वीकार्य नहीं थे, वो इलाके उनको मंजूर नहीं थे, उनकी तरफ उनका ध्यान नहीं था, उनको देश के नागरिक के रीते उनकी कोई संवेदना नहीं थी। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, और इसलिए जहां इक्का दुक्का सीटें हुआ करती थी, उसके प्रति सौतेला व्यवहार ये कांग्रेस के डीएनए में रहा है। पिछले कई वर्षों का इतिहास देख लीजिए। नॉर्थ ईस्ट में उनका ये रवैया था। लेकिन अध्यक्ष जी, मैं पिछले 9 साल के मेरे प्रयासों से कहता हूं कि हमारे लिए नॉर्थ ईस्ट हमारे जिगर का टुकड़ा है। आज मणिपुर की समस्याओं को ऐसे प्रस्तुत किए जा रहा है जैसे बीते कुछ समय में ही वहां ये परिस्थिति पैदा हुई है। कल अमित भाई ने विस्तार से बताया है समस्या क्या है, कैसे हुआ है। लेकिन मैं आज बड़ी गंभीरता से कहना चाहता हूं, नॉर्थ ईस्ट की इन समस्याओं की कोई जननी है तो जननी एकमात्र कांग्रेस है। नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लोग इसके लिए जिम्मेवार नहीं हैं, इनकी ये राजनीति जिम्मेवार है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, भारतीय संस्कारों से ओतप्रोत मणिपुर, भाव भक्ति की समृद्ध विरासत वाला मणिपुर, स्वतंत्रता संग्राम और आजाद हिंद फौज, अनगिनत बलिदान देने वाला मणिपुर, कांग्रेस के शासन में ऐसा महान हमारा भूभाग अलगाव की आग में बलि चढ़ गया था। आखिर क्यों? आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, आप सबको भी मैं याद दिलाना चाहता हूं साथियों, यहां मेरे जो नॉर्थ ईस्ट के भाई हैं उनको हर चीज का पता है। जब मणिपुर में वो एक समय था, हर व्यवस्था उग्रवादी संगठनों की मर्जी से चलती थी, वो कहे वो होता था। और उस समय सरकार किसकी थी मणिपुर में? किसकी सरकार थी? जब सरकारी दफ्तरों में महात्मा गांधी की फोटो नहीं लगाने दी जाती थी, तब सरकार किसकी थी? जब मोइरांग में आजाद हिंद फौज के संग्रहालय पर नेताजी सुभाष चंद्र बोस की प्रतिमा पर बम फेंका गया, तब मणिपुर में सरकार किसकी थी? तब मणिपुर में सरकार किसकी थी? आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, जब मणिपुर में स्कूलों में राष्ट्रगान नहीं होने देंगे, ये निर्णय किए जाते थे, तब मणिपुर में सरकार किसकी थी? जब एक अभियान चला था, अभियान चला करके लाइब्रेरी में रखी गई किताबों को जलाने का, ये देश का अमूल्य ज्ञान की विरासत को जलाते समय सरकार किसकी थी? जब मणिपुर में मंदिर की घंटी शाम को 4 बजे बंद हो जाती थी, ताले लग जाते थे, पूजा अर्चन करना बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता था, सेना का पहरा लगाना पड़ता था, तब मणिपुर में सरकार किसकी थी? आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, जब इम्फाल के इस्कॉन मंदिर पे बम फेंककर श्रद्धालुओं की जान ले ली गई थी, तब मणिपुर में सरकार किसकी थी? जब अफसर, हाल देखिए, आईएएस आईपीएस अफसर, उनको अगर वहां पर काम करना है तो उनके तनख्वाह का एक हिस्सा उनको इन उग्रवादी लोगों को देना पड़ता था, तब जाकर के वो रह पाते थे, तब सरकार किसकी थी? आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, इनकी पीड़ा सिलेक्टिव है, इनकी संवेदनाएं सिलेक्टिव है, इनका सब बातचीत राजनीति से शुरू होती है और राजनीति से आगे बढ़ती है। वे राजनीति के दायरे से बाहर से न मानवता के लिए सोच सकते हैं, न देश के लिए सोच सकते हैं, न ही देश की इन कठिनाइयों के लिए सोच सकते हैं। उनको सिर्फ राजनीति के सिवा कुछ सोचता नहीं है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, मणिपुर में जो सरकार है और पिछले 6 साल से इन समस्याओं का समाधान ढूंढने के लिए लगातार कोशिश, समर्पित भाव से कोशिश कर रही है। बंद और ब्लॉकेड का जमाना कोई भूल नहीं सकता है। मणिपुर में आए दिन बंद और ब्लॉकेड होता था, वो आज बीते दिन की बात हो चुकी है। शांति स्थापना के लिए, हर एक को साथ लेकर चलने के लिए एक विश्वास जगाने का प्रयास निरंतर हो रहा है, आगे भी होगा। और जितना ज्यादा हम राजनीति को दूर रखेंगे, उतनी शांति निकट आएगी, ये मैं देशवासियों को विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, हमारे लिए नॉर्थ ईस्ट आज भले हमें दूर लगता है, लेकिन जिस प्रकार से साउथ ईस्ट एशिया का विकास हो रहा है, जिस प्रकार से आसियान देशों में का महत्व बढ़ रहा है, वो दिन दूर नहीं होगा हमारे ईस्ट की इस प्रगति के साथ साथ नॉर्थ ईस्ट वैश्विक दृष्टि से सेंटर पॉइंट बनने वाला है। और मैं ये देख रहा हूं और इसलिए मैं पूरी ताकत से आज नॉर्थ ईस्ट की प्रगति के लिए लड़ रहा हूं, वोट के लिए नहीं कर रहा हूं जी। मुझे मालूम है कि करवट लेता हुआ विश्व की नई संरचना किस प्रकार से साउथ ईस्ट एशिया और आसियान कंट्री के अंदर प्रभाव पैदा करने वाली है, और तब नॉर्थ ईस्ट का क्या महत्व बढ़ने वाला है और नॉर्थ ईस्ट की जाहो जलाली गौरव गान फिर से कैसे शुरू होने वाला है, वो मैं देख सकता हूं और इसलिए मैं लगा। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, और इसीलिए हमारी सरकार ने नॉर्थ ईस्ट के विकास को पहली प्राथमिकता दी है। पिछले 9 वर्षों में लाखों करोड़ रुपए नॉर्थ ईस्ट के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर हमने लगाए हैं। आज आधुनिक हाईवे, आधुनिक रेलवे, आधुनिक नए एयरपोर्ट, ये नॉर्थ ईस्ट की पहचान बन रहे हैं। आज पहली बार अगरतला रेल कनेक्टिविटी से जुड़ा है। पहली बार मणिपुर में गुड्स ट्रेन पहुंची है। पहली बार नॉर्थ ईस्ट में वंदे भारत जैसी आधुनिक ट्रेन चली है। पहली बार अरुणाचल प्रदेश में ग्रीनफील्ड एयरपोर्ट बना है। पहली बार अरुणाचल में सिक्किम जैसे राज्य एयर कनेक्टिविटी से जुड़ा है। पहली बार वाटरवेज के जरिए पूर्वोत्तर इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड का गेटवे बना है। पहली बार नॉर्थ ईस्ट में एम्स जैसा मेडिकल संस्थान खुला है। पहली बार मणिपुर में देश की पहली स्पोर्ट्स यूनिवर्सिटी खुल रही है। पहली बार मिजोरम में इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मास कम्युनिकेशन जैसे संस्था खुल रहे हैं। पहली बार केंद्रीय मंत्रिमंडल में नॉर्थ ईस्ट की इतनी भागीदारी बढ़ी है। पहली बार नागालैंड से एक महिला सांसद राज्यसभा में पहुंची है। पहली बार इतनी बड़ी संख्या में नॉर्थ ईस्ट के लोगों को पद्म पुरस्कार से सम्मानित किया गया है। पहली बार पूर्वोत्तर से लसित बरफुकन जैसे नायक की झांकी गणतंत्र दिवस में शामिल हुई है। पहली बार मणिपुर में रानी गाइडिंलिउ के नाम पर पूर्वोत्तर का पहला ट्राइबल फ्रीडम फाइटर म्यूजियम बना है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, हम जब सबका साथ सबका विकास कहते हैं, ये हमारे लिए नारा नहीं है, ये हमारे शब्द नहीं है, ये हमारे लिए आर्टिकल ऑफ फेथ है, हमारे लिए कमिटमेंट है, और हम देश के लिए निकले हुए लोग हैं। हमने तो कभी जीवन में सोचा ही नहीं था कि कभी ऐसी जगह पर आकर के बैठने का सौभाग्य मिलेगा, लेकिन ये देश की जनता की कृपा है कि उसने हमें अवसर दिया है। तो मैं देश की जनता को विश्वास दिलाता हूं, शरीर का कण कण, समय का पल पल सिर्फ और सिर्फ देशवासियों के लिए, सिर्फ देशवासियों के लिए। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, मैं अपने विपक्ष के साथियों की एक बात के लिए आज तारीफ करना चाहता हूं, क्योंकि वैसे तो वो सदन के नेता को नेता मानने को तैयार नहीं है। मेरे किसी भाषण को उन्होंने होने नहीं दिया है, लेकिन मुझ में धैर्य भी है, सहन शक्ति भी है, और जेल भी लेता हूं, और वो थक भी जाते हैं। लेकिन एक बात के लिए मैं तारीफ करता हूं, सदन के नेता के नाते मैंने 2018 में उनको काम दिया था कि 2023 में आप अविश्वास प्रस्ताव लेकर, और मेरी बात मानी उन्होंने। लेकिन मुझे दुख इस बात का है कि 18 के बाद 23 में 5 साल मिले थे, थोड़ा अच्छा करते, अच्छे ढंग से करते, लेकिन तैयारी बिल्कुल नहीं थी, कोई इनोवेशन नहीं था, कोई क्रिएटिविटी नहीं थी, न मुद्दे खोज पा रहे थे। पता नहीं, ये देश को इन्होंने बहुत निराश किया है राष्ट्र। चलिए कोई बात नहीं, 2028 में हम फिर से मौका देंगे। लेकिन मैं इस बार उनसे आग्रह करता हूं कि जब 28 में आप अविश्वास प्रस्ताव लेकर के आए हमारी सरकार के खिलाफ, थोड़ी तैयारी करके आइए, कुछ मुद्दे ढूंढ करके आइए। ऐसे क्या घिसी पिटी बातें लेकर के घूमते रहते हो? और देश की जनता को थोड़ा विश्वास इतना मेरे से कि चलो भाई आप विपक्ष के भी योग्य हो, इतना तो करो। आपने वो योग्यता भी खो दी है। मैं आशा करता हूं कि थोड़ा होमवर्क करेंगे। तू मैं और चिल्लाना, चिखना, नारेबाजी करना, उसके लिए तो 10 लोग मिल जाएंगे उनको, लेकिन थोड़ा दिमाग वाला भी काम कीजिए ना। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, राजनीति अपनी जगह पे है। संसद ये दल के लिए प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं है। संसद ये देश के लिए सम्माननीय सर्वोच्च संस्थान है और इसलिए सांसदों के लिए भी इसके प्रति गंभीरता होना बहुत जरूरी है। देश इतने संसाधन लगा रहा है, देश के गरीब के हक का यहां खर्च किया जाता है, यहां का पल पल का उपयोग देश के लिए होना चाहिए, लेकिन ये गंभीरता विपक्ष के पास नजर नहीं आ रही है। इसलिए अध्यक्ष जी, ये राजनीति ऐसी तो नहीं हो सकती चलो खाली है जरा संसद घुमाते हैं, इसलिए संसद है क्या? ये तरीका होता है क्या? आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, ये चलो संसद घुमाते भावना से राजनीति तो चल सकती है, देश नहीं चल सकता है। यहां देश चलाने के लिए हमें काम दिया है और इसलिए उस जिम्मेवारी को अगर पूरा नहीं करते हैं तो हम जनता जनार्दन का, अपने मतदाताओं का विश्वासघात करते हैं और इन्होंने विश्वासघात किया है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, मेरा इस देश की जनता पर अटूट विश्वास है, अपार विश्वास। और मैं अध्यक्ष जी विश्वास से कहता हूं कि हमारे देश के लोग एक प्रकार से अखंड विश्वासी लोग हैं। 1000 साल की गुलामी के कालखंड में भी उनके भीतर के विश्वास को कभी उन्होंने हिलने नहीं दिया था। यह अखंड विश्वासी समाज है, अखंड चैतन्य से भरा हुआ समाज है। ये संकल्प के लिए समर्पण करने की परंपरा को लेकर चलने वाला समाज है। वयम राष्ट्रांग भूतः कह करके देश के लिए उसी संवेदना के साथ काम करने वाला ये समाज है। और इसलिए माननीय अध्यक्ष जी, ये ठीक है कि गुलामी के कालखंड में हम पर बहुत हमले हुए, बहुत कुछ झेलना पड़ा हमें, लेकिन हमारे देश के वीरों ने, हमारे देश के महापुरुषों ने, हमारे देश के चिंतकों ने, हमारे देश के सामान्य नागरिक ने विश्वास की उस लौ को कभी बूझने नहीं दिया था जी। कभी भी वो लौ कभी बूझी नहीं जी। और जब लौ बूझी नहीं तो उस प्रकाश पुंज की साए में आज लोग हम उस आनंद को ले रहे हैं। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, बीते 9 वर्षों में देश के सामान्य का, मानवीय का विश्वास नई बुलंदियों को छू रहा है, नए अरमानों को छू रहा है। मेरे देश के नौजवान विश्व की बराबरी करने के सपने देखने लगे हैं और इससे बड़ा सौभाग्य क्या हो सकता है? हर भारतीय विश्वास से भरा हुआ है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, आज का भारत न दबाव में आता है न दबाव को मानता है। आज का भारत न झुकता है, आज का भारत न थकता है, आज का भारत न रुकता है। उस समृद्ध विरासत विश्वास लेकर के, संकल्प लेकर के चली है। और यही कारण है जब देश का सामान्य मानवीय देश पर विश्वास करने लगता है तो दुनिया को भी हिंदुस्तान पर विश्वास करने के लिए प्रेरित है। आज जो भी दुनिया का विश्वास भारत के प्रति बना है, उसका एक कारण भारत के लोगों का खुद पर विश्वास बढ़ा है। ये सामर्थ्य है। कृपा करके इस विश्वास को तोड़ने की कोशिश मत कीजिए। मौका आया है देश को आगे ले जाने का। समझ नहीं सकते तो चुप रहो, इंतजार करो, लेकिन देश के विश्वास को विश्वासघात कर करके तोड़ने की कोशिश मत करो। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, बीते वर्षों में विकसित भारत के एक मजबूत नींव रखने में हम सफल हुए हैं और सपना लिया है 2047 जब देश आजादी के 100 वर्ष मनाएगा। आजादी के 75 वर्ष पूर्ण होते पर ही अमृतकाल शुरू हुआ है और अमृतकाल के प्रारंभिक वर्षों में है। तब इस विश्वास के साथ मैं कहता हूं, जो नींव आज मजबूती के साथ आगे बढ़ रही है, उस नींव की ताकत है कि 2047 में हिंदुस्तान विकसित हिंदुस्तान होगा, भारत विकसित भारत होगा साथियों। और ये देशवासियों के परिश्रम से होगा, देशवासियों के विश्वास से होगा, देशवासियों के संकल्प से होगा, देशवासियों की सामूहिक शक्ति से होगा, देशवासियों की अखंड एकनाथ के पुरुषार्थ में होने वाला है। ये मेरा विश्वास है। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, हो सकता है यहां जो बोला जाता है वो रिकॉर्ड के लिए तो शब्द तो चले जाएंगे, लेकिन इतिहास हमारे कर्मों को देखने वाला है। जिन कर्मों से एक समृद्ध भारत का सपना साकार करने के लिए मजबूत नींव का कालखंड रहा है, उस रूप में देखा जाएगा। इस विश्वास के साथ आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, आज सदन के सामने मैं कुछ बातें स्पष्टतापूर्वक करने के लिए आया था और मैंने बहुत मन पर संयम रख करके उनकी हर अपशब्दों को हंसते हुए, अपने मन को खराब न करते हुए 140 करोड़ देशवासियों को, उनके सपनों और संकल्पों को अपनी नज़र के सामने रख करके मैं चल रहा हूँ। मेरे मन में यही है और मैं सदन के साथियों से आग्रह करूंगा, आप समय को पहचानिए, साथ मिलकर के चलें। इस देश में मणिपुर से भी गंभीर समस्याएं पहले भी आई है, लेकिन हमने मिलकर के रास्ते निकाले हैं। आओ मिलकर के चलें, मणिपुर के लोगों को विश्वास देकर के चलें। राजनीति के खेल करने के लिए मणिपुर की भूमि का कम से कम दुरुपयोग न करें। वहां जो हुआ है वो दुखपूर्ण है, लेकिन उस दर्द को समझ करके दर्द की दवाई बन करके काम करें। यही हमारा रास्ता होना चाहिए। आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, इस चर्चा में बहुत समृद्ध चर्चा इस तरफ तो हुई है। एक डेढ़ घंटा विस्तार से सरकार के काम का हिसाब देने का हमें अवसर मिला है और मैं, अगर ये प्रस्ताव ना आया होता तो शायद हमें भी इतना कुछ कहने का मौका न मिलता। तो फिर एक बार प्रस्ताव लाने वालों का तो मैं आभार व्यक्त करता हूं, लेकिन ये प्रस्ताव देश के विश्वासघात का प्रस्ताव है। ये देश को की जनता अस्वीकार करे ऐसा प्रस्ताव है। और इसके साथ मैं फिर एक बार आदरणीय अध्यक्ष जी, आपका हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करते हुए मेरी वाणी को विराम देता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
श्री गौरव गोगोई जी, श्री गौरव गोगोई जी, गौरव गोगोई जी। अब मैं श्री गोगोई द्वारा प्रस्तुत प्रस्ताव को सभा में मतदान के लिए रखूंगा। प्रश्न ये है कि सभा मंत्रिपरिषद में विश्वास का अभाव व्यक्त करती है। जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में वहाँ गए, जो सदस्य इसके विरोध में ना गए, मेरे विचार में निर्णय ना वालों के पक्ष में हुआ, ना वालों के पक्ष में प्रस्ताव अस्वीकृत हुआ। क्या रिपोर्ट है? आज की चर्चा के अंदर माननीय श्री अधीर रंजन चौधरी और वीरेंद्र मस्ती जी का व्यवहार सदन की मर्यादाओं के अनुरूप नहीं रहा। मैं वीरेंद्र मस्त जी कुछ बोलना चाहते हैं आप?
मैं कभी भी सदन के सम्मान को ध्यान रखता हूं, आपके अध्यक्ष पीठ का भी ध्यान रखता हूं। जो भी और जिस भी व्यवहार से सदन का कार्रवाई से वो हमने इतना ही हुआ है कि मैं उसके लिए आपसे, आपके अध्यक्ष पीठ से क्षमा चाहता हूं। हम अपने नेता के अपमान को बर्दाश्त नहीं कर पाए, इसके लिए मैं आपसे क्षमा चाहता हूं।
संसदीय कार्य मंत्री जी कुछ?
सर, मैंने उसी टाइम पॉइंट ऑफ ऑर्डर भी उठाया था, लेकिन अफसोस की बात यह है, द मोस्ट अनफॉर्चुनेट थिंग इज सर, the leader of the Congress party, sir, every time, whenever the Honorable Prime Minister speaks, whenever other minister speaks, whenever they reply, whenever there is a debate, every time deliberately he tries to disturb, sir. A habitual ho gaya, sir. It has become a habitual, and it is most unfortunate, because he is the leader of the Congress party, which is the largest party in this house, sir. In the opposition. In spite of repeated requests, repeated warning from the chair also, he has not improved himself. And always in his debate, he makes the baseless charges. And देश का और देश के सरकार के भी छवि को कम करने का कोशिश करता है, और उसके लिए कोई भी आधार नहीं रहता, तथ्य नहीं रहता, सर। तो इसके बावजूद भी क्षमा प्रार्थना नहीं करते। उसी टाइम हमने डिमांड किया, आपने क्षमा प्रार्थना करो। कल जब गृह मंत्री जी बोल रहे थे, तब भी ऐसा व्यवहार किया। हर समय ऐसे व्यवहार करते, इसलिए तो मैं एक रेजोल्यूशन मूव करता चाहता हूं आपकी अनुमति से, that this house, having taken the serious note of the gross, deliberate and repeated misconduct of Shri Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, in utter disregard to the house and the authority of chair, resolve that the matter of the misconduct of Shri Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary be referred to Committee of Privileges of the House for the further investigation and report to the House, and Shri Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary be suspended from the service of the House till the Committee of the Privilege submit its report. धन्यवाद सर।
प्रश्न है कि माननीय मंत्री द्वारा प्रस्तुत प्रस्ताव को स्वीकृत किया जाए। जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना कहें। मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ, हाँ वालों के पक्ष में हुआ। प्रस्ताव स्वीकृत हुआ। सभा की कार्रवाई शुक्रवार दिनांक 11 अगस्त 2023 को प्राप्त 11 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है।
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. So that was the end of the no confidence motion debate with the Prime Minister's speech, and of course by a voice vote, the opposition has lost that motion. That was not to be in doubt. It was an unreserved, no holds barred attack on the opposition by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi today, who criticized the India bloc, accusing them of placing their party above the nation. Taking a swipe at their acronym as well, he said that opposition has broken India by placing full stops between the letters. And how to survive, they had to take support on NDA and have just placed two I's before and after the term NDA. He said it is not India Alliance but Ghamandia Alliance, an alliance where there are multiple PM candidates. Enumerating the achievements of the BJP government, the Prime Minister highlighted that they have delivered a corruption-free administration, fulfilled aspirations of the public and created opportunities for the country's youth. He promised that he will make India a top 3 world economy soon. He also took on the freebies model that parties are employing more and more to win elections these days. He was especially critical of the Congress party today, talking about how there is a great sense of no confidence against that party in the country. He made jibes against Rahul Gandhi too without naming him, quite like he did in 2018. He also expressed confidence that NDA and the BJP will win a bigger mandate than in 2019, in 2024. And the opposition will bring another no confidence motion in 2028 ahead of the 2029 elections. But before he finished, the opposition walked out today, which was ironic because they had moved this motion and wanted the PM to speak. It is likely the opposition will say that the Prime Minister did not address the Manipur issue adequately. The Prime Minister did, of course, speak on the Manipur issue towards the end of his speech, and he even criticized Rahul Gandhi's statement stating that Bharat Mata has been killed in Manipur. It was a solid speech by the master orator, and on that there was hardly any doubt. It has effectively given the BJP momentum for the next 1 year to take on this India bloc that has just been crystallized against the NDA. So was this a slam dunk or a last ball sixer by the Prime Minister, as many had predicted? We'll take that question to our guests in just a bit. But let me first break down some of the broad points that the Prime Minister has touched on today. First up, let's talk about the no trust motion itself. There was a lot of humor, a lot of back and forth and jokes in his speech. That is, of course, what goes into any master orator's speech. So he joked that it is good that God guided opposition to bring this motion. He had said also in 2018, and he reminded the public about that I had said in 2018 also, this is not a test of the government. These motions, the one in 2018 and the one in 2023, are a test of the opposition. He went on to say, we proved the numbers in 2019, increasing our mandate. That's, of course, the election numbers. And he went on to say that opposition no confidence motions are shubh for us. So actually, they work in the NDA's favor. And this was a very emphatic declaration by the Prime Minister that the BJP and the NDA will break all previous records in 2024 elections. Let me also now take you through some of the points that the Prime Minister made as far as opposition politics is concerned. He did take on a lot of the politics that the opposition has been playing on many issues. But first up, for example, he mentioned as far as this session is concerned, that important bills have been sidelined for politics by the opposition. He was talking about this session as well, where the opposition was not keen on looking at the bills but only wanted to disrupt the House. That is according to the Prime Minister. He has also said that party is above the country for the opposition, again taking on their politics. He went on to say that you actually don't care about the poor of the country. What you care about is your own power. He also went on to say, you don't care about the youth's future in the country. What you care about is your own future. Opposition has always disappointed the public of India was also a remark that the Prime Minister made. Now, the Prime Minister also highlighted that this is an important turning point for India. Remember, his government has been calling the next 25 years as Amrit Kal for India. So what is it that the Prime Minister said on this very important era? He said this is a golden era for India and this is a time to work. The 21st century belongs to India. This is, of course, what global experts also say. He said, and this is the important statement, work done now will impact the next 1,000 years for India. And therefore, it's important to put our heads together. Record foreign investment in the country now, and also how the entire country has to build a strong foundation to ensure that India doesn't lose out. And remember, there's also the demographic dividend that people talk about. Now, Modi took on a lot of the opposition attacks during his government, especially with regards to banking, businesses, and even the public sector. So let me break down some of those charges that the opposition has been making and how he responded to that. He started off with another joke that everything opposition attacks begins to do well. So he also went on to say how the banking sector is something that the opposition said was doomed, but it is doing well despite past NPA issues. HAL, that was also predicted to be doomed by the opposition, but is actually posting healthy profits now. More recently, the issue of LIC, the opposition predicted a fall, but it is doing well. And he also then ended this attack on the opposition by saying that when you bring the motion again in 2028, India will be the third biggest economy. Well, we've got lots of opinions lined up, but before we do that, let's listen in to a small excerpt of some of the strongest points of the Prime Minister's speech today.
विपक्ष का अविश्वास प्रस्ताव हमारे लिए शुभ होता है। और मैं आज देख रहा हूं कि आपने तय कर लिया है कि एनडीए और बीजेपी 2024 के चुनाव में पुराने सारे रिकॉर्ड तोड़ करके भव्य विजय के साथ जनता के आशीर्वाद से वापस आएंगे। मेरे लिए इनकी ये गालियां, ये अपशब्द, ये अलोकतांत्रिक भाषा, मैं उसका भी टॉनिक बना देता हूं। विपक्ष के लोगों को एक सीक्रेट वरदान मिला हुआ है। हाँ, सीक्रेट वरदान मिला हुआ है जी। और वरदान ये कि ये लोग जिसका बुरा चाहेंगे उसका भलाई ही होगा। जिस प्रकार से खजाने से पैसे लुटाकर वोट पाने का खेल खेल रहे हैं, और मैं देश को कहना चाहता हूं, इनसे सुधरने की मुझे कोई अपेक्षा नहीं है, वो जनता इनको सुधार देगी। विपक्ष का अविश्वास प्रस्ताव हमारे लिए शुभ होता है। और मैं आज देख रहा हूं कि आपने तय कर लिया है कि एनडीए और बीजेपी 2024 के चुनाव में पुराने सारे रिकॉर्ड तोड़ करके भव्य विजय के साथ जनता के आशीर्वाद से वापस आएंगे। मेरे लिए इनकी ये गालियां, ये अपशब्द, ये अलोकतांत्रिक भाषा, मैं उसका भी टॉनिक बना देता हूं। विपक्ष के लोगों को एक सीक्रेट वरदान मिला हुआ है। हाँ, सीक्रेट वरदान मिला हुआ है जी। और वरदान ये कि ये लोग जिसका बुरा चाहेंगे उसका भलाई ही होगा। जिस प्रकार से खजाने से पैसे लुटाकर वोट पाने का खेल खेल रहे हैं, और मैं देश को कहना चाहता हूं, इनसे सुधरने की मुझे कोई अपेक्षा नहीं है, वो जनता इनको सुधार देगी।
All right, before we go across to our political guests, I want to introduce our CNN News 18 team and their analysis first up. Remember, yesterday we previewed the Prime Minister's speech. Now we've heard it for over 2 hours. Let's analyze this. I'm joined by Managing Editor Zaka Jacob, Political Editor Aman Sharma, and also our Consulting Editor Nalin Mehta. My colleague Pallavi is also joining us from, of course, Central Delhi. I'm presuming, Pallavi, where you would have kept an eye on the Parliament proceedings. Nalin, why don't I begin with you? What was the highlight of the Prime Minister's speech for you today?
So I think before the Prime Minister started, before the debate started, a lot of people thought that by bringing a no confidence motion, the opposition is giving an open field to the Prime Minister to set the template for the narrative for 2024. I think in his long speech, this was a Prime Minister who was very confident. This was a Prime Minister who, if you compare Rahul Gandhi's speech with his speech, it's a difference between a political speech and a really political speech. But look at the narrative and the tonality. It was very positive to begin with. He talked about his achievements.
The changes in the country.
He talked very specifically about the contradictions within the India alliance.
Yes.
Very specifically across the parties, and essentially his primary talking point in that was that, look, for all of this alliance of 26 parties, it is my vision versus their vision. What is their vision? Yeah. And I think by driving that point home, he scored. I think he was very specific on that point. On the Northeast and Manipur, he continued what Amit Shah was saying yesterday about the historical legacy of the issues in Manipur. But look, he spoke almost more than half an hour on the Northeast.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about the silence on Manipur. There's been a lot of talk about that the Prime Minister has gone to Northeast so many times before, but he hasn't spoken now. But by specifically talking about Manipur, and also in the historical context of from the Aizawl bombings of 1966 to all of that.
And the High Court recent verdict. You know,
exactly.
Aman, what he did say on Manipur, we should run some more of his graphics on what he said on Manipur, because he did spend a lot of time on it. And opposition maybe missed a trick by walking out before he touched Manipur, because I think they was getting a little angsty that he's not talking about Manipur, he's talking about everything else. But he did talk about Manipur. He said that Congress is the root cause of all the problems that Northeast has faced. Nehru deliberately ignored Northeast. We have tried to develop Northeast, and in the end he also said the public, the country and the parliament is with the people and the women of Manipur. So he tried to assure the people, the citizens there as well.
It is very ironic, Shivani, because the whole no confidence motion was brought by the opposition to make the PM speak on Manipur.
Yes.
And when the PM spoke on Manipur, the opposition walked out before that.
Had already
so it is
walked
pretty ironic, and obviously the Prime Minister wanted to speak on Manipur, maybe not in the same length as Mr. Amit Shah did. And when the Prime Minister spoke, he did say that Mr. Amit Shah has given a nearly 2-hour long address on Manipur yesterday and explained things in detail, but still the PM went in a lot of detail on himself also. But I think besides the Manipur question, there are also 3-4 big messages I would take from the PM's speech. One, that he's clearly said that he's coming back with a bang in 2024. He's coming back with a bigger mandate.
Yes.
He said opposition को ये पसंद नहीं है कि गरीब का बेटा प्रधानमंत्री बन गया है. Also the point, I think the second major point, that where he says the opposition alliance does not stand any chance. It's full of arrogance. It is like putting a coat of paint on a rusted machine. So he said that this is basically new packaging of an old product. His attack on Rahul Gandhi, without naming Rahul Gandhi, I think is very significant. Multiple points he's raised against Rahul
Also
Gandhi.
in 2018, he didn't name Rahul Gandhi. We did a word cloud of his speech in 2018. We'll do an analysis later, Zaka, of course, 2018 versus 2023. But that then too, he had not named Rahul Gandhi, but there were jibes. Today also, he hasn't named Rahul Gandhi. But more specifically, he said the language used by Rahul Gandhi, that Bharat Mata was killed in Manipur, was highly objectionable.
Yeah, I mean, he went on to contrast how Ma Bharati, these were the people who didn't believe in Ma Bharati, they didn't talk about Vande Mataram, they didn't adopt Vande Mataram because it would offend one section of India. For me, the standout were two things. One, obviously, this is a speech for 2024. This is not a speech so much for a no confidence motion reply or for Manipur, because the amount of time he spent on Manipur was not as much as, you know, let's say what Amit Shah spent yesterday. This was setting the stage for what his government has done in the last 9 years and what is it that the opposition is saying that they are offering. I think he's clearly drawing a contrast that this is India's time. He said that 2-3 times at the start, that this is India's time, the 21st century belongs to India. And I think in the second half of his speech, he was trying to draw the contrast that if this is India's time, then he is the man and his government should be the one that
You need a strong, decisive government, not the India bloc, which has multiple PM aspirants. Let me go to Pallavi also with that. Pallavi, we were discussing exactly this yesterday. Rahul Gandhi is back. I don't know whether temporary or not as a parliamentarian, but that's the contradiction the Prime Minister was bound to establish in his speech today. The Parivarvad, the corruption of the opposition bloc, their need to come together despite their contradictions, and of course the multiple aspirants for the Prime Minister's position.
And frankly speaking, I found no surprises there, because this was a given that the Prime Minister would certainly seize this opportunity to hit back at the Congress party, to hit back at the India front opposition, and he relentlessly did that. And therefore, I think his almost 2-hour long speech actually became a very, very strong pitch as far as the campaign for not just the state elections but also for 2024. I think he just went on to hurt the Congress party where it hurts it the most. In a sense, it also forced the Congress party and Rahul Gandhi particularly to either come back to Lok Sabha not once but twice. He walked in, he went to a speaker's office. He also put in an appeal that why was his comment expunged. He comes out, gives a soundbite, then he goes inside the Lok Sabha, and then of course he walks out with the rest of his party colleagues, led by Sonia Gandhi of course, and many of the India front opposition. That's when the Prime Minister spoke about Manipur. I think consistently the point which and the thread really of the Prime Minister's speech was the fact that every time you find a fault with us, we've actually delivered. What is something you should have done, we've delivered in the 10 years that we have been in power. And I think the big wrap up, and I think that's the electoral slogan, that I am going to make India number 3, rest assured on that. That is very clearly going to be the kind of a poll promise. And frankly speaking, he also did have a point when he said that, you know, you are criticizing me all the time, but what is it that you're offering to the people?
Absolutely.
You know, political parties, when they criticize their political opponents, often run the risk of not offering a positive alternative. I think the way we're looking at the India Front's agenda, the India Front's campaign till now, they have spend much of their energy and time in criticizing the government, but at the
not
end of the day,
presenting an
voters
alternate
vote
vision.
for alternatives and
In
options.
fact, Pallavi, the Prime Minister even said that they don't even ask the right questions. They don't ask, how are you going to do something? They just run down everything that the government says that they're going to do. I'm going to thank all of our colleagues for joining us. Pallavi, of course, outside, and my colleagues here in the studio as well. Thanks a lot for your top comments. And of course, now let's take it across to our guests joining us for the debate on the Prime Minister's speech. Joining me, Shehzad Poonawalla of the BJP. I've got Matthew Anthony of the Congress Party, Biswajit Dev, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress, and Prateek Som of the JJP, all with us. We've got limited time. Gentlemen, I appreciate your patience. The Prime Minister's speech ended only a short while ago. And I think the broad question everybody knows, was the Prime Minister successful in that last ball sixer he is quoted to have talked about before this speech, a slam dunk as we're asking? Let me begin with some of the opposition voices. Shehzad, I'll come to you for a response. Anthony, please go first. Hasn't the Prime Minister put especially the Congress on the mat, listing your historical errors and also how everything that you've stood for has been detrimental for the country?
Shivani, thanks for this opportunity, and let me tell you this, I would like to differentiate from calling the politics a game. It is not a game. It is a noble service to the people of this country. You cannot equate politics to a game and that as a game of numbers. You see the people of Manipur, for all these 97 days plus, the women there got gang raped, paraded naked, their genitals being publicly abused, and then the Prime Minister took a lot of dramatic conversation to address this before that one. Aren't we ashamed as a country to see that, that when the Prime Minister had the time to visit Egypt, America and France in the last 97 days, he didn't have the time to go to Manipur. If he is such a hero, where is this boldness to be there in Manipur? Where was his courage to go and address the statement in front of the people of Manipur and address it? If Congress was bad, why was he so good and courageous and bold to go to Manipur and address it in all these days?
Okay,
why did he
fair
take
enough.
the cover?
Let's move forward from that. The Congress has made that point, and the Home Minister yesterday responded actually to this charge that actually every time there has been violence and there's been, the ground situation has been bad, forget about prime ministers, not even ministers from the government have visited the state of Manipur. That's the record of the Congress. In this case, both the Home Minister and the MOS Home were in Manipur for multiple days. But leave that aside. I want to ask you, Anthony, before I bring in Shehzad as well, why did you walk out? Why did the opposition walk out? You wanted to hear the Prime Minister on Manipur.
Look at the way the Prime Minister has been insulting and wasting the time in the Parliament by drawing out something, of abusing and bashing Congress and the NDA alliance. Whereas, the issue of the no confidence was to address principally and largely the issue of Manipur.
No, but you spoke on everything else too. Opposition members spoke on everything else too. You should have accorded the same respect to the Prime Minister to hear him out.
No, he was abusing. He was left, right, abusing the party, and, he was not coming to the issue at all. He was mocking the entire system.
Okay, Shehzad Poonawalla.
First of all, Shivani, it was Mr. Arvind Kejriwal who had labelled this entire affair in Parliament as a semi-final. So perhaps he's making a commentary on Arvind Kejriwal. And secondly, today's speech, if I were to speak about it, it was detailed, comprehensive, empathetic, sharp, and it showed a mirror to the Congress party, which has conveniently skipped and forgotten all the chapters of history, particularly relating to the Northeast. Now today there are several fundamental questions that need to be asked. That is Manipur an issue that started after 2014? No. There is a history to the Manipur issue. What has the Congress done on the entire Northeast? That has been spoken of not just by what Mr. Nehru has done or what Nehruji said about Assam, but even by Mr. Lohia, one of their partners right now. The followers of Lohia have actually joined them, but Mr. Lohia has explained about that. So finally, the question today is that when you were serious about Manipur, why didn't you hear the response of the Prime Minister on Manipur? That is because this debate was never about Manipur. This was a failed attempt to relaunch Rahul Gandhi for the 14th time. And therefore, they never started off and wanted a discussion on Manipur. They first hijacked Parliament Parliament over a rule issue. Then they allowed for Parliament to be disrupted only to allow the functioning on Delhi Services Bill. That showed that it was not Manipur. And Mr. Michael Antony or Mark Antony, whatever your name is, Mr. Mark Antony, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary today got up in Parliament and said, Manipur is not confined to a state or a nation, it is a global issue. Can I know the Congress's official position that after internationalizing Kashmir, you want to internationalize Manipur? Is that your official stand? Because Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary has got up in Parliament and said that Kashmir is not an internal issue, it's an Indo-Pak issue.
Okay, very
Nehru,
quickly.
of course, took
Two of
Kashmir
our
to
guests
the
are
United
waiting.
Nations.
Can you just
please
hold your
tell
thought?
me if this is
Can
an
I
international
hold your
issue
thought?
for you?
Anthony, I'm sorry, Matthew, very quickly, just respond to that. Are you for internationalizing the Manipur issue? I'll go to our other guests after that.
Not at all. We are concerned about the human rights issues. And Shehzad, I will just like
then
to
do you
bring the
condemn Mr.
attention
Adhir
of
Ranjan Chaudhary's statement?
No.
Do you condemn Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary's statement?
See, it is not. Manipur is a part of India. You have been denying Manipur.
I will make you hear his statement. Do you condemn it? He has internationalized the Manipur issue in the House of Parliament. I would require a condemnation of the Congress party on it.
Manipur is an issue of India, and it is a pertinent issue of India, and we have raised it substantially. And you also raised a point of the Northeast. What are the development institute of Northeast in all these years?
Then why was Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary legitimizing EU's statement on it?
From there, that that only from 2014 that Northeast has started seeing development. The
Prime Minister did say that.
I have been in Mizoram. And I have seen the developments and I have seen the lack of development.
Fair enough. The degree of development can be debated, but this is a debate we've had in the past about the Northeast per se. It's not just about Manipur. Let me go to Biswajit ji as well. He's been waiting patiently. For the last 3 days, Mr. Dev, we've been talking about whether the opposition gets anything out of this no confidence motion debate, or are they actually going to end up looking worse than what they started with? Don't you feel that giving the Prime Minister this stage to give this speech and take on every issue about the India bloc, about the opposition parties, and of course Manipur, was a self-goal of sorts? We are using a lot of sports analogies today, but of course we're not equating politics to a game. Mr. Dev.
What did we hear from the Prime Minister today? First 90 minutes, there was nothing about Manipur. He did not utter a word about Manipur. It was only about his what he was doing. First 90 minutes, no word of Manipur. He was only attacking the India alliance. He was attacking the opposition. There was no specific proposal regarding Manipur, how he wants to solve the solution. The entire matter, the entire problem, how he wants to solve. There was no specific agenda. And when 60,000 people are homeless, when 150 people died, and when 300 places of worships have been destroyed, the Prime Minister was laughing inside the house, and he was giggling inside the house, and he was just making an election speech. This was nothing but an election speech. What this BJP has done for Northeast.
But sir, okay, fair enough. Mr. Dev, I want to ask you a more pointed question. Are you saying that everything the Prime Minister said, and we'll run some of those statements the Prime Minister said, everything the Prime Minister said on Manipur was pointless or worthless? Are you saying that nothing coming from the Prime Minister today was important for you? Surely you don't expect the Prime Minister to discuss security situations and solutions in Parliament.
Where is a specific proposal?
But the opposition always said that we know the situation is complex. We just want to hear the Prime Minister's mind. Now he spoke his mind.
We have heard the Prime Minister, and we have heard that since the first 90 minutes, he was doing his own publicity, and he was doing an election speech for 2024. There was nothing about Manipur. And thereafter, when he spoke about Manipur, there was no specific agenda. There was no specific way that he showed.
Okay, fair enough. I've got limited time. Let me also give a couple of minutes to Prateek Som as well. Prateek, now this is the comparison that's going to be made. The BJP and the Prime Minister were always going to make comparisons of the last 60 years and let's say the last 6 years since the BJP has been in power in Manipur or the Northeast at large. But will it suffice to change the public perception or win the public perception battle to say, oh, things were terribly bad under Congress and they are not as bad under us, despite the fact that this cycle of violence has been pretty brutal? Will that be enough?
See, Shivani, we have to see that this session has clearly reflected that only goal of opposition is to stop PM Modi and not to raise the issues which concern our country. This session, I've been watching this throughout. The person who moved the no confidence motion, Mr. Gaurav Gogoi, after his speech, he was absent from Parliament. They brought Mr. Manmohan Singh for voting against in the Delhi Ordinance Bill, but they were not. They did not use him for making some kind of contribution when the debates were happening on no confidence motion, and there was no seriousness shown. I could see that there were more MPs receiving Mr. Rahul Gandhi outside the Parliament for photo ops, but none of them made any significant contribution while doing debates. Rather, I could see in this no confidence motion, the opposition was unleashed with the scams which they have done before the NDA government came, and they have no reply. The only thing I saw was to stop the Delhi Ordinance Bill, and after
Let
that
me
there
touch
was no
upon the point of
that whether
the whole
no
Modi
confidence motion
versus
is passed or
Rahul
not,
battle that
it
the
was
Congress
the-
did try to make this into. Very quickly, Anthony and Shehzad Poonawala. Anthony, I'll give you 30 seconds. This was meant to be the big comeback of Rahul Gandhi in Parliament, but the verdict seems to be that his speech was underwhelming. Already this was a non-level playing field for him versus Modi. But Rahul Gandhi could not make the kind of impact he could have made, especially on the issue of Manipur. Instead, his statement on Bharat Mata backfired and was the kind of language that should not have been used. Matthew, very quickly.
Rahul Gandhi made a statement from the experience which he has received from visiting Manipur, whereas Modi's statement was from the speech which is written to him by people who have not been into Manipur, and he made a political statement. Rahul made a speech for the people of Manipur by keeping the cause of the people of Manipur, by keeping the cause of relieving the pain of the people of Manipur, and there was sincerity in that communication, whereas, he questioned the insincerity and the cruelty in the Prime Minister of not being to Manipur in the last 97 days. That's exactly the point.
Shehzad, 30 seconds. Final response. Who won the perception on Manipur? Because this is an ongoing issue that affects the public.
The only thing that we remember of Rahul's speech is the opportunity missed and a flying kiss. And therefore, those who lack in content, substance, intent are usually bound to fail. There's nothing new though. The rocket of Rahul Gandhi has been relaunched by his Lutyens nannies for long enough. It's kept crashing. But I can also understand pain of Mr. Dev. Despite the phone call from Kolkata, Adhir got a chance to speak today thanks to Amit Shah ji. So I think Mr. Dev's problems are also understandable.
Okay.
Perhaps he can take it out in the next meeting in Mumbai.
I've run out of time. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Well, the many contradictions within the India bloc is one of the biggest issues that the Prime Minister hammered on. Talking about multiple aspirants, he did hammer about the point that Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary was not given the time to speak by the opposition, maybe because there was a call that came from West Bengal. I leave you on that note. My colleague Anand Narasimhan will be joining you on the right stand, on the other side, and of course our big coverage continues on the Prime Minister's speech.
Brought to you by
2014 में 82,466 सीट था, आज 1,52,129 सीट्स अवेलेबल है सर. 69,000 सीट्स नया ऐड हुआ है सर. एम्स के बारे में बहुत चर्चा होती है इस सदन में. 2014 में 15 एम्स थे, आज 23 एम्स है इस देश में. बार बार बोलते हैं जन औषधि केंद्र भी हमारा प्रोग्राम है, हम ही लॉन्च किए हैं. हाँ, लॉन्च किए हैं जरूर, हवा में रह गए हैं, जमीन पे लोगों के पास नहीं आया वो जन औषधि केंद्र. मैं ये बात बोलना चाह रही हूं कि आखिर हम लोग ग्रास रूट्स और ग्राउंड से जुड़े हुए लोग हैं, इसीलिए जन औषधि केंद्र का प्रोग्रेस आपके सामने मैं रखना चाहती हूं. Sir, objective of Jan Aushadhi Kendra was to make sure that at least one Jan Aushadhi Kendra or store will be in each district. जब यूपीए ने लॉन्च किया उस समय उनके मकसद ये था कि जन औषधि केंद्र हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में कम से कम एक हो, मगर 2008 से लेकर 2014 तक सिर्फ 80 लॉन्च किए हैं यूपीए, सिर्फ 80। इस देश में तब मान लीजिए 600 से ज्यादा डिस्ट्रिक्ट रहते थे, अभी तो 700 से ज्यादा हो गए। 600 में से सिर्फ 80 तक पहुंचे, 8 से लेकर 14 तक, 2008 से 14 तक। सो लॉन्च करने में खुशी है मगर इंप्लीमेंट करने में नहीं। मगर हमारे नीयत अलग है, इंप्लीमेंटेशन के ओर है। लोग वेट करते रहे और वेट करते रह गए कि हमारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट में खुलेगा जन औषधि केंद्र और हम सस्ते दवाई खरीद पाएंगे, मगर नहीं हुआ उनके कार्यकाल में। पीएम मोदी himself felt the pain of how high prices of drugs are affecting normal middle class and poor family. As a result, he took direct interest in it and made sure Jan Aushadhi Kendra are implemented and opened in every district. If you see the progress between 2014, every year the numbers increased. In 1 year, the number of stores tripled from 80 to 279, 15-16 mein. And then it became 1080 in 16-17. The target of opening 3000 kendras was achieved in December 2017. Sir, now साल में अभी 9,484 जन औषधि केंद्र देश भर में है।
Namaste, Jai Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. Has Prime Minister Narendra Modi not just demolished the opposition but shown them their place? Was it perhaps disappointment from him when he turned around and said, I thought you would come to me with better, I thought you would come prepared? Has he set the tone for not just 2024 but also the tone for what should be the political discourse going forward? Does the opposition really have a vision that can match or in fact outmatch the vision that Prime Minister Narendra Modi claims he has for Bharat? The opposition walking out, not even staying till the end to see if the no confidence motion goes to vote, etc. It's a hands down victory, the numbers said. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi saying that the story of Bharat, an Ek Bharat, a Viksit Bharat will be when we all do it collectively, while reassuring the people of Manipur that Manipur will be back on the track of Vikas and the safety of the mothers and daughters of Manipur is a concern for the entire country. Listen in to some of the excerpts of his 2-hour, 13-minute long speech on the floor of the Lok Sabha.
भगवान का आशीर्वाद मानता हूं कि ईश्वर ने विपक्ष को सुझाया और वो प्रस्ताव लेकर आए और मैं आज देख रहा हूं कि आपने तय कर लिया है कि एनडीए और बीजेपी 2024 के चुनाव में पुराने सारे रिकॉर्ड तोड़ करके भव्य विजय के साथ जनता के आशीर्वाद से वापस आएंगे। विपक्ष के लोगों को एक सीक्रेट वरदान मिला हुआ है। हाँ, सीक्रेट वरदान मिला हुआ है और वरदान ये कि ये लोग जिसका बुरा चाहेंगे उसका भला ही होगा।